Students, what is up, guys? It's been a little bit. How are you guys doing?
Let's go try to make hay.
I got one person who's excited that I'm back. The rest of you are dead to me. You can go ahead and leave. I'm excited to be back, guys. Excited to be here. If you did not know, about a month ago today, a little boy named Whitaker Whitehead was born, and he is, this is a completely unbiased opinion, the cutest little boy who's ever existed. And so if you don't believe me, you might see my wife walking around with him today, and you can see for yourself just how awesome he is. But I'm excited to be here. We're kicking off a brand new series called The One, talking about relationships. And as we get started, I was told by someone, I'm not going to name names, Aaron Osborne, that we have some avid note takers who want to know the names of my messages. Is that true? Do we have some avid note takers that would like to know the names of my messages? So if you're an avid note taker and you're taking notes right now, the title of my message is Am I the One? And so we are talking about this idea of the one. And it's kind of like this mythical idea, right? You've heard it before, that there is this one perfect person who's perfect in all their things. They look perfect, they act perfect, they treat us so well. And one day in the future, we're gonna meet this perfect person and everything is going to be perfect, right? And that is the idea. The only problem is reality. Because the mythology of the one is kind of like a unicorn or a narwhal. You're going to kind of be looking for it for quite a while. I want to give you, there's a lot of reasons why I could disagree with this. I'm going to give you one that's based purely on logic. The idea of the one is that there is one perfect person for every person, but that you have the ability to make the wrong choice. Everyone following what I'm saying right now? So if that is true, if you make the wrong choice, that means you've now taken someone else's perfect person. If that is true, literally like a couple of thousand years ago, one person screwed it up, and the domino effect of that has made it impossible for us to ever find the one. So that's just one reason, I would say, logically, why that just doesn't make sense, but there's a lot. Maybe you're asking us, hey, why are we even talking about this? Here's what I believe. There is going to be a day that you've experienced, or you will experience, where late at night, you are going to be laying in your bed, and you're going to take your pillow, and you're going to cover your face, and you are going to sing or cry into your pillow. I want to know what love is. I want you to show me, right? Obviously, you guys know what happened when I auditioned for the band, right? Like that's clearly obvious to you guys right now. But you're asking that question, like, I want to know, what is this love thing about? Maybe for you, you're just a small town girl living in a lonely world, right? Maybe you're a city boy born and raised in South Detroit, right? And you're just waiting on that midnight train to take you anywhere, right? Maybe you've heard the words of the great 90s theologian Meatloaf, right? Who said, I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. And to this day, one of the world's greatest mystery is what Meatloaf meant when he said that, because we still don't know. So the reason that we're talking about this is it's everywhere. It's in the music that you listen to. It's in the movies that you watch. It's in the shows that you watch. It's in the conversations that you have. It is a part of our reality. And so we wanted to talk about it because it is important to you. And maybe you've asked the question, hey, does God even care? Does God care who I date? Does God care the person I am with? Does he have an opinion about it? Does he care? And so we live in a culture that would say, hey, you know what? You should just do what you want to. You should do what's best for you. You should date who you want. You should do what you want with that person. Whatever feels good for you is good. And so that is what culture is telling you. That's probably what you hear around your schools, around some of your friends. And so the question we have to ask, is that true? People are saying it, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. And I already know as I'm beginning to talk and broach the subject, there is a tension rising up in you where you're like, Jeremy, I already know what you're gonna say to you. You're gonna tell me not to date, and you're gonna tell me not to have sex, and you're gonna tell me not to make bad decisions, and you're gonna tell me just to be a good person. You're already feeling that. I've already heard this talk. I already know what this is, and I'll level with you. I'm probably going to say some of those things. But I want you to hear my heart. Our time together is not me trying to take anything away from you. Our time together this week and the next couple of weeks is I am trying to give you something. I am trying to give you a tool because dating is going to be a reality for most of it in this room, and I want you to be able to date well. So I am trying to give you a tool. Pastor and author Andy Stanley says, relationships are wonderful and powerful. Relationships are wonderful and powerful. Wonderful enough that they are worth pursuing. Wonderful enough that they are worth chasing. Wonderful enough that they are worth fighting for. But powerful enough that they need to be respected. Powerful enough that you need to be cautious with them. Powerful enough that you need to have boundaries around it. And so, like I said, my prayer for our time, not only today, but over the next couple weeks as we begin to discuss what God says about relationships, what is this whole thing, and how can we set you up well, is I am not trying to rob you of some experience right now, but I'm actually trying to save you a lot of pain, save you a lot of heartbreak, and set you up well for your future. And to do that, we're gonna be in the book of Proverbs. If you don't know anything about the book of Proverbs, it's called the wisdom literature. It's written by Solomon, who's the Bible says is the wisest person who ever lived. So I'm just not gonna argue with the Bible. I'm not sure if you are. I'm not gonna do that. But if it says he's the wisest person in the world and he says things about how the world works, I think it's in our benefit to look at it. And what you begin to see as you begin to look at Proverbs and look at the wisdom that he shares is he'll see something that I'm gonna call a life principle. And I've shared life principles. These are universal truths, and he'll see something in the world. He'll see something in nature. He'll see something out in the field. He will see something, and he will see a universal truth, a universal principle behind it that applies to all areas of life. And so that we're gonna look at one of those today. We're gonna be Proverbs chapter 24, verse 27. So it says, prepare your work outside. Get everything ready for yourself in the field. And after that, build your house. So I know what your first question is. Jeremy, what does building a house have to do with dating? It's a great question. We're gonna get there. What Solomon is saying here is he is, like I said, he's seeing something in the world that applies to more than its immediate situation. And he's saying, hey, before you can build a house, there is some foundational preparation that you need to have. I don't think any of you are going to be building your own home in the future, but this is still valuable information for you. So one thing I would say that happens a lot, if you went to go buy land to build a house on, one of the most important things is that land is level. Not sure if you've thought about laying in a bed in an unlevel home and maybe you just roll over to the side and you keep rolling. Like that's not an ideal sleeping position, right? So that you would prepare the ground underneath you to be level. Maybe you've never asked the question, when I flush my toilet, where does everything go? Like that's not a thought that has crossed your mind, but without good preparation, it's gonna show back up in your yard. And so we have things called septic tanks and sewer systems now, and they had equivalents of that in the time that Solomon's talking about, but he's saying there is preparation that needs to happen before you just show up and build a house. The foundation is one of the most important parts. If you get your foundation wrong, eventually your house will just fall apart no matter how well it was built. And Solomon's seeing this, and he's saying, hey, before, I'm guessing he's seeing someone that's just building a house, and he's like, man, this is not gonna go well for this guy. Before you go build your house, there's some things that you need to go do, because if you don't, it's not gonna go well for you. We'll pick up in verse 30. He said, I passed by the field of a sluggard, by the vineyard of a man lacking sense. The Bible's very clear sometimes. I feel like you should already know this story is not gonna end up well for this person. It says, and behold, it was all overgrown with thorns. The ground was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. I don't want you to miss this, students. I saw and considered it. I looked and received instruction. So Solomon is walking, and he sees this guy who's built his house poorly, did not prepare well, and he's literally like, thorns are growing up in this guy's field. The guy's wall has literally fallen over, and he says, this guy is really dumb, right? That's the modern day translation of lacking sense. He's like, you are really dumb for real, all right? And so he's saying, hey, this guy isn't smart. He hasn't made good decisions. He was unprepared for what the future had for him. His lack of preparation led to dysfunction in his life. So if Solomon was on HGTV and we were looking at Solomon's guide for building a home, it would say, prepare your land, then build your house. But the universal principle that he's teaching, and we'll get into what that has to do with relationships, is this right here. So if you're taking notes, this is a great thing for you to write down. Preparation now prevents dysfunction later. Preparation now prevents dysfunction later. If the man who was lacking sense had prepared his land, none of this stuff would have happened to the house that he built. But a lack of preparation sets yourself up for dysfunction in your future. And when it comes to dating and relationships, the same thing is true. Preparation now prevents dysfunction later. Before you can date well and find someone that maybe you can spend the rest of your life with, that maybe you can enjoy, that maybe you can connect with, there is preparation that needs to happen. And so that's what we're gonna spend the rest of our time today doing. The first piece of preparation I feel like I can give you is to understand dating. Dating looks weird right now. Some of you have online boyfriend and girlfriends that you've never even met before in real life. Like, I just don't get that, but it's okay. Like, I'm not trying to shame you. You do you, boo-boo, okay? But here's what I'm going to say. The purpose of dating is not connection. Maybe for you, dating, I'm supposed to find someone to connect with. I'm supposed to find someone I can hang out with. I'm supposed to find someone I can make out with. Maybe you're all like, hey, what is this whole dating thing supposed to be? I'm gonna help you out here. The purpose of dating is evaluation. The purpose of dating is evaluation. That you would be able to evaluate and find out if someone is the right person to spend your time with, if they are someone who you can connect with, or should connect with, or even can connect with. And this evaluation process is what I believe is a tool that is beneficial for you. Like, it shouldn't be a bad thing to evaluate and say, hey, this is good and this is bad. You do that all the time. You're like, hey, homemade mac and cheese, easy mac. The evaluation process begins to stir, and most of it was to say, hey, the homemade alternative is just better than its packaged, easy counterpart, right? I feel like all of us would find ourselves in the same place. The purpose of evaluation is to figure out whether something is right, something is good. And so we want you to date well. And maybe you've never thought about this before. Maybe you've never thought about evaluating whether someone is even someone you should date. You're just like, they like me, I like them, I don't mind looking at them, we should date. And that's the most thought you've put into this person you've just made some sort of commitment to, right? Maybe you've never thought about, hey, should I even date this person? And so I want to help you out. If you are taking notes, you're set up well for what we're about to do. If you're not, then we are going to publicly shame you because we tell you all the time to take notes. But you can take some mental notes right now. But I want you guys to do an exercise with me real quick. I want you to begin to think, if you had to create the ideal future person in your head, that you would say, this is the person I think I can connect with. This is the person I should connect with. If you begin listing characteristics of what that person acts like, what are the qualities that make up that person, what would they be? So if you're taking notes right now, I want you to spend the next 30 seconds. I want you to jot down what comes to your mind. What describes a person? I want you to be specific. I don't want you to just list a quality, list that quality in action. If you say, I want someone is nice, what does nice look like? If you say, hey, I want someone who is generous, what does generosity look like in that context? And can I go ahead and help you out? If the first thing you wrote down is hot, you're already like going the wrong direction. So I'm gonna give you like 30 seconds. I want you to just sit. I want you, if you don't have notes, just sit. I want you to close your eyes and begin to picture this person. So I'm going to give you just a few seconds to do that. All right, I want everyone's eyes closed, not sleeping, just eyes closed. You're picturing this perfect person, and maybe you're saying, man, I want someone who's honest, right? Maybe you're saying, I want someone who's nice. I want you to picture, what does that look like? I want someone who's friendly. I want someone who's helpful. Is everyone picturing someone in their mind, right? You have this kind of, blank, oblique person doing nice things, being generous, right? But you're kind of picturing what this person might look like. I want you to look up at me now. Here is the evaluation question I have for you. Are you the type of person that the person you're looking for, that this person you have just created in your head is looking for? Are you actively trying to be the person that person that you have just thought up would even be interested in being in a relationship with? Most people have never thought about preparing for a relationship, about what they should do to be in a relationship. And so my first evaluation question for you, are you the person that the person you might end up with one day, this fictitious person you've just made up in your head that is kind and nice and generous and funny and smart and all of those things, are you the person? Are you acting in a way that they would be interested in a relationship with you? Are you their person that they have begun to think in their mind? I'm going to summarize it like this. Becoming the one is better than finding the one. Becoming the one is better than finding the one. And listen, I want to give a disclaimer with this because it's so much more than just trying to be a good person for someone else, right? Like God has so much more for you than just ending up with someone one day, but in the context and conversation of relationships, you have the ability to become someone that someone would want to date, that someone is right now picturing in their head, this is that type of person I would want to spend the rest of my life with. If you've been to a wedding, you've probably heard some of these verses before. It's called the love chapter in Corinthians, and it's very popular. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7 says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. When the Apostle Paul penned these words to the church at Corinth, he wasn't actually writing wedding vows. Not sure if you knew that. He wasn't trying to give guys some help in some very poetic, flowery language to help them impress the girl that they were trying to impress. What Paul was doing was Paul was seeing dysfunction in the church and how people were operating with each other, and he was giving them a lens to evaluate what that looked like well. What love looked like. He primarily wrote this to the believers in the church and said, hey, this is how you should treat each other. If you're saying you're a believer and you're saying you're a believer, then there is something that connects you that is bigger than all the other things that you identify yourself with. And he's saying it should look different. But the benefit that we get from Paul penning these words is it also gives us an evaluation process of, is this someone I should be connected with? Is this someone I should be in a relationship with? Is this someone who models all of these things? Maybe for you, you've already kind of put the name of someone you like, or maybe even someone you're dating right now, and begin to filter them through some of those words. Are they kind? Are they patient? Are they irritable? Are they quick to anger? Maybe you begin to put their name in those things. Can you ask yourself, does that sound like them? And here's the reality. I'm going to be just transparent with you right here. If you are saying those things and you're saying that is not the kind of person I am with, that is not the kind of person I like, they do not fit any of those good qualities. They're really good at the do not do this, but the do these, they're kind of struggling a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and help you out. The evaluation process is over. You have evaluated and you came to the conclusion it's not working out. And that can be a healthy thing and that can be a good thing. And I already know you're already coming up with, but what if they change? They can be better. I can help them be better, right? You're already working on it, right, in your heart. Like, I can help them be a better person. I'm gonna be honest with you again. I think that is a great thing. I think when you begin to see someone change and operate in those things, maybe that's a good time to restart the evaluation process. But for you right now, if there is someone you're interested with, if there is someone that you're dating, if there is someone that you like, and you're looking through this evaluation and you're saying, man, they're not that kind. They are not that nice. They are not that helpful. They don't care more for others than for themselves. They're quick to anger, quick to be irritated. I would say in the most loving way I can, I feel like you've done a good job of the evaluation process and that the evaluation process is now over, and it's probably the best thing for you to end that. And that doesn't have to be a horrible thing. That doesn't have to be a traumatic thing. That can actually be a super helpful and healthy thing. And I want you to know, I'm not trying to preach perfection. If I ran myself through that list, I would have failed in that multiple times in my relationship with my wife. I'm not trying to preach perfection, that no one can ever do anything wrong. I'm saying, who are they at the core of who they are? And you know, if you're honest with yourself, you know. And maybe when you observe different things, you can tell the difference between the right kind of person and the wrong kind of person. And I'll tell you this as well. I want you to evaluate it like you were evaluating for your best friend. You give really great advice to your best friend. You care so much that your best friend is with the right type of person. You just need to evaluate the people in your life with the same lens. But here is where it gets to our first preparation part. I want you guys to lean in real quick and listen to me. Before we can shine our light on someone else and begin to evaluate them, we first have to shine the light on ourselves and evaluate ourselves through the same lens. We have to ask ourselves the hard questions. And I'm not just saying, hey, you need to change who you are to try to be worth dating. I'm saying God has called you to be a certain person. And students, I don't want you to miss out on who he's called you to be. It's so much more than just dating someone. And yes, we are talking and we are having a conversation and preparing to date well. But the things that we're talking about, the self-evaluation goes far beyond relationships. Students, what Paul is talking here goes far beyond relationships. Becoming the person that God has called us to be is more important than finding someone to simply be with. Becoming the person that God has called you to be. God has called each and every single one of you to live a certain way, to act a certain way. And you walking in that is so much more important than simply finding someone to be with. And so you have to begin to ask yourself the question. Not shine the light on someone else. You have to ask yourself, am I kind? Am I patient? Patient doesn't rush others into uncomfortable situations. Patience doesn't pressure, it pauses. You have to ask yourself, have I been kind recently? Kindness gets a bad reputation in our culture. You see, kindness shines when it encounters someone who is lacking. It's kind to be generous to someone who doesn't have resources. It's kind to care for those who are sick. In relationship, kindness often looks like sacrifice. For me right now, in my relationship, we have a newborn baby. So the most kind thing either one of us could do is to let the other person simply sleep a little bit longer. Because that means we're sacrificing the sleep that we would get. And I know that doesn't mean anything to a lot of you, but that's what it looks like. It looks like sacrificing something you could get for yourself, for someone else. And the reality is, and I'm gonna be, like I said, I'm just trying to be really honest with you. If you are someone who is unkind to others, or being treated unkindly, and you are processing whether this is someone I should be in a relationship with, statistically, someone doesn't get better at being kind over time. They're gonna put their best foot forward right at the very beginning. So if you are already having problems with simply someone being kind to you, I think that's a great step to sit and evaluate whether that's the type of person. Getting in a relationship doesn't make it better. Getting married doesn't make it better. Making a choice to be different does. You have to ask yourself things like, am I prone to envy, or am I arrogant or rude? Some translations use the word dishonor, that we would devalue something. Honor is ascribing value to something, and you treat things that are valuable differently, right? Like, so maybe for you, if I had like $1 million baseball card, or maybe like $1 million Pokemon card in my hand right now, like that is valuable. I would have it laminated and I wouldn't let any of you jokers touch it, right? It's just too valuable to do that. I'm gonna treat it differently. If you've been around a baby, I've been around this a lot recently, like it's a super valuable thing, and maybe you're doing the awkward baby handoff where you're handing it to someone else, and it's just so awkward because you're just not wanting to risk anything happening in this handoff to someone else because it's just too valuable. So ask yourself the question, am I someone who honors other people? Do I treat people differently? Do I ascribe value, or do I take it away? Students, before you get overwhelmed and obsessed with a relationship with someone else, you should begin to invest in the most important relationship that you'll ever have, and that's your relationship with God. You see, these things that we're talking about don't actually come very natural to us. Patience, kindness. But they do come natural as we walk with Jesus. And as we begin walking with Jesus, he begins to grow us and mature us and change us. And so the first step for you today might simply begin walking with Jesus. You're like, hey, I'm excited about dating. I think dating's great. I'm attracted to basically everyone. Like, this whole thing's awesome, right? But you've never spent the time to evaluate, is this someone I should be dating? And before you do that, you have to ask yourself, am I someone that needs to be dating? And listen, my hope for you is that someday down the road, not that you'll meet the one, but I do believe you'll meet someone. And someone special, someone who is that oblique, picturesque person that you imagined earlier when we were talking. And I hope when you meet that person that you are prepared to date well, that you have done the work, that you have prepared your land so that you can begin building a house. And, I know some of you guys come from broken families where there's been hurt and there's been divorce and there's been pain. And a lot of times what you hear is they just stopped loving each other. And listen, when they say that, they're talking about love as a feeling, but love's not a feeling. Love is an action. What they're really saying is they didn't stop loving each other, they stopped being kind. They stopped being considerate. They stopped being patient. They stopped honoring one another. And as they did that, dysfunction grew. And probably what happened is there was a lack of preparation on the front end. And my hope for you is you have the opportunity to do things differently. You have the ability to do things better by taking advantage of your opportunity to prepare now to date well later. Pray with me, students.